The examination hall of the Galactic Military Academy stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystalline floor, filled with cadets from 200 different species. Darcy sat at her terminal, her human fingers dancing across the holographic interface as she reviewed the final question of her strategic combat. Assessment Question 47 List. All approved non-lethal options for subduing hostile combatants in close-quarters scenarios. Explain the effectiveness of each method. Jax, her human classmate 3 rows ahead, had already submitted his exam. She'd watched his confident grin as he'd walked out 20 minutes early. Typical. But Darcy took her time, reading the question again. Then she typed, "Define non-lethal." The proctor, a Valkyrian with 6 stalked eyes, slithered over to her station. Its translator crackled to life. "Cadet Darcy, this is not a philosophy exam. Answer the question as stated." "I am answering it, sir," Darcy replied calmly. "The question requires clarification." The proctor's eyes swiveled in confusion, but it moved away. Darcy continued typing. 3 days later, Darcy and Jack stood before the academic review board. The chamber was circular, with 7 committee members representing the major powers of the Galactic Coalition seated at elevated podiums. In the center, a holographic display showed Darcy's exam response. Commander Thexeral, a 4-armed Zentari warrior with a chest full of medals, spoke first. "Cadet Darcy." "Cadet Jax, you both submitted unusual responses to question 47. Cadet Jax, you wrote a single sentence. All human options are non-lethal if we're trying to keep them alive. Would you care to explain?" Jax stepped forward, his posture relaxed but respectful. "Yes, Commander. It's simple, really. Humans don't have binary states like most species. We don't just have alive and dead, we have degrees." "Degrees?" The Valkyrian academic, Professor Silthine, sounded skeptical. "Yes, ma'am," Jax continued. "Take a broken bone. Most species in the Coalition either have exoskeletons that shatter completely, crystalline structures that fracture irreparably, or regenerative capabilities that make such injuries meaningless. Humans, we can break someone's arm and they'll be back to duty in 6 weeks. Broken ribs? Painful, debilitating, but survivable with basic care. We've learned to calibrate force precisely." Darcy watched the board members exchange glances. She could see the wheels turning in their minds, the uncomfortable realization beginning to dawn. Cadet Darcy, Admiral Kresh, a Krellin with translucent blue skin, gestured toward her. "Your response was considerably more detailed. Would you care to present it?" Darcy nodded and activated her section of the holographic display. "I wrote that non-lethal is a relative term that must account for species physiology, pain tolerance, regenerative capacity, and long-term survivability. What's non-lethal to one species might be instantly fatal to another." She pulled up a chart. For example, a nerve strike that would merely stun a Valkyrian would cause permanent paralysis in a Zentari. A chokehold safe for humans would crush a Frel's respiratory bladder. So I provided a cross-reference matrix. The display exploded with data. Thousands of entries organized by species, body type, and vulnerability points. "Holy void," muttered Thexeral. Darcy continued, her voice steady. "But more importantly, I had to address the human perspective on non-lethal, because it's fundamentally different from the Coalition standard." She pulled up anatomical diagrams, human bodies with dozens of marked points. Humans have been perfecting the art of hurting each other without killing for thousands of years. We have martial arts specifically designed around it. Pressure points that cause excruciating pain but no permanent damage. Holds that render someone unconscious in seconds but allow them to wake up minutes later with nothing but a headache. Professor Silthine leaned forward. "You're saying humans have weaponized temporary injury?" "Not weaponized, Professor, systematized." Darcy zoomed in on a neural pathway diagram. "We understand our own biology intimately because we're fragile. We break easily, but we also heal. So we've learned exactly how hard to hit, exactly where to strike, to take someone out of a fight without taking them out permanently." Jax picked up where she left off, and it's not just about physical damage. Humans can use psychological techniques, intimidation, disorientation, sensory overload. We can make an opponent surrender without ever touching them. "That sounds like torture," Admiral Kresh said quietly. "No, sir," Darcy replied firmly. "Torture is prolonged, purposeless suffering. What we're describing is precise application of force and fear to end combat quickly, with minimal lasting harm. There's a difference. Is there? The question came from General Vexenal, a scarred Drell veteran who hadn't spoken until now. Because from where I'm sitting, you're both describing a species that has spent millennia learning exactly how to hurt others in ways that don't show up on autopsy reports. The room fell silent. Darcy met the general's gaze. Yes, sir. That's exactly what we've done. Because humans fight each other constantly. We always have. But we also live together, work together, build together. So we needed ways to resolve conflicts without ending lives because we might need those people tomorrow. She gestured to the data still hanging in the air. Every species in the coalition has weapons designed to kill efficiently. Humans do too, but we're the only species that has an entire parallel arsenal designed specifically not to kill. Rubber bullets, tasers, tear gas, batons, pepper spray, sonic weapons. We have a whole industry dedicated to less lethal tools. Why? Professor Silthine's question was barely a whisper. Jax answered. Because humans are social persistence predators. We hunt in packs, we hold grudges, but we also forgive and cooperate. We needed ways to fight that didn't destroy our ability to work together afterward. You can't negotiate with a corpse. Commander Thexerel slumped in his seat. So when we asked for non-lethal options, you interpreted that through a human lens where non-lethal includes broken bones, unconsciousness, pain compliance, psychological trauma, and targeted nerve damage? Yes, Commander, Darcy said. Because by human standards, if they walk away from it eventually, it's non-lethal. The board members looked at each other. Finally, Admiral Kresh spoke. Your responses pass, barely. But I'm adding a note to both your files. Remind the humans that coalition standards for non-lethal force are considerably more conservative than human norms. As Darcy and Jax left the chamber, he grinned at her. Think we scared them? Definitely, Darcy replied. But they asked the question. We just gave them the answer they didn't want to hear. Behind them, through the closing doors, they could hear General Vexenal's voice. I'm recommending we review our entire combat training curriculum. If humans consider that non-lethal, I don't want to think about what they consider appropriate force. Darcy smiled. Humanity's reputation in the galaxy just got a little more complicated and a lot more respected, and